What I'm about to show you can completely change the way your lemon tree behaves. Because sometimes a lemon tree doesn't need more care, more fertilizer, or more love. Sometimes it needs controlled stress. In nature, lemon trees are survivors. They don't fruit because conditions are perfect. They fruit because conditions become challenging and the plant feels an internal pressure to reproduce. Today, I'm going to explain, step by step, how you can safely shock a lemon tree using scientific, controlled methods so that it switches from leaf production to flower and fruit production without killing the plant or damaging it long term. Most people fail with lemon trees because they treat them like fragile babies. They water every day, add nitrogen-rich fertilizer every week, and panic at the first sign of leaf drop. What they don't realize is that a constantly comfortable lemon tree has no biological reason to produce fruit. In a stress-free environment, the plant focuses on vegetative growth, more leaves, more branches, more height, but no flowers. Fruiting is a survival response. When a lemon tree senses uncertainty, it tries to secure the next generation by producing flowers and fruit. That is the mindset you must understand before applying any shock method. Let me make one thing very clear before we go deeper. This is not abuse. This is controlled stress applied at the right time to a healthy and mature lemon tree. If your plant is very young, weak, diseased, or recently transplanted, do not attempt this. The shock method only works on a lemon tree that is already established, has a good root system, and shows healthy green growth. If your tree meets those conditions, then this method can trigger flowering when nothing else works. The first and most powerful shock technique is water stress. Lemon trees hate extremes, but they respond strongly to changes. If you water your lemon tree regularly, it becomes lazy. To apply water stress, you must gradually reduce watering, not suddenly drown or starve the plant. Stop watering completely and allow the topsoil to dry out fully. Then allow it to dry even deeper until the leaves begin to slightly droop during the hottest part of the day. This slight drooping is a signal, not a danger. It tells you the plant is feeling stress but is still alive and responsive. Do not wait until leaves turn yellow or crispy. Timing is everything. During this water stress phase, the lemon tree starts to change its internal hormone balance. Growth hormones reduce and reproductive hormones begin to increase. This is the exact switch we want. Many growers are afraid at this stage and panic water the plant. That mistake resets everything. You must hold your nerves and trust the process. This stress phase usually lasts 7 to 14 days depending on climate, pot size, and soil type. In hotter regions, it happens faster. In cooler regions, it takes a bit longer. Once the stress phase reaches its peak, meaning the leaves droop slightly but recover in the evening, you introduce recovery watering. This is where the magic happens. Water the plant deeply, slowly, and thoroughly. Not a light sprinkle, a deep soak that reaches the full root zone. This sudden availability of water after a dry phase sends a powerful signal to the plant. Danger past, now reproduce. Within 2 to 3 weeks after this recovery watering, many lemon trees begin forming flower buds, especially if the timing matches a favorable season. Now let's talk about the second controlled shock method, which is root pruning. This method sounds scary, and that's why most people never try it. But nurseries and professional growers use variations of this technique all the time. Roots control everything above ground. When roots are slightly restricted or disturbed, the plant reassesses its growth strategy. Root pruning should never be done aggressively. The goal is not to damage the plant, but to interrupt its comfort. If your lemon tree is in a pot, this method is easier. Carefully remove the plant from the pot. You will see a dense network of roots circling the edges. Using a clean, sharp tool, trim only the outer 10 to 15% of the root mass. Do not cut the thick central roots, only trim the fine feeder roots on the edges. This controlled damage signals stress, but keeps the plant fully functional. After pruning, repot the plant in the same pot or slightly larger, using fresh, well-draining soil. For lemon trees planted in the ground, root pruning is done by digging a shallow circular trench around the tree, about 1.5 to 2 feet away from the trunk, depending on the tree's size. The trench should be about 8 to 10 inches deep. This cuts some of the feeder roots while leaving the main roots intact. After filling the trench back with soil, water lightly, not heavily. The goal is stress, not comfort. Root pruning should always be followed by a recovery period. The tree may pause growth for a few weeks. This pause is good. It redirects energy internally. During this phase, you must avoid nitrogen-heavy fertilizers because nitrogen pushes leaf growth, which is the opposite of what we want. This is where most people make a critical mistake. They see slow growth and immediately add urea or high nitrogen fertilizer, completely canceling the shock effect. Now we come to the third and final part of this method, the potassium boost. Potassium is the fruiting nutrient. While nitrogen builds leaves and phosphorus helps roots, potassium directly supports flower formation, fruit set, and fruit quality. After the stress and recovery phases, the lemon tree is hormonally ready to flower, but it needs the right nutrition signal to finalize the process. Potassium should be applied carefully and in the right form. You can use sulfate of potash, potassium nitrate in low concentration, or organic sources like banana peel compost tea or wood ash in very small amounts. The timing is critical. Potassium should be applied after water stress recovery or after root pruning recovery, not during peak stress. Applying it too early weakens the plant. Applying it too late reduces effectiveness. When potassium enters the system at the right time, it strengthens flower buds, reduces flower drop, and improves pollination success. This is also when micronutrients like boron and zinc play a supporting role, but only in trace amounts. Overfeeding is worse than underfeeding. Remember, this method is about signaling, not force feeding. One important psychological barrier gardeners face is fear. Fear of leaf drop, fear of plant death, fear of doing something wrong. But plants are not glass objects. Lemon trees evolved in environments with droughts, nutrient fluctuations, and physical damage. Controlled stress mimics nature. The problem with modern home gardening is overcomfort. Overwatering, overfeeding, and overprotecting create weak, lazy plants that grow beautifully but never fruit. Another key factor is timing. Controlled shock works best just before or during a natural flowering window, which varies by climate. In many regions, late winter to early spring is ideal. In tropical climates, it may align with dry to wet season transitions. Applying shock at the wrong time can still stress the plant, but won't trigger flowering. Understanding your local climate cycle is essential for consistent results. It's also important to manage expectations. Not every lemon tree will respond immediately. Some trees may take one full growth cycle to show results. Others may flower but drop flowers initially. This is normal. The first flowering after shock is often a test run by the plant. With proper care afterward, balanced watering, light feeding, and pest control, the next flowering cycle is usually stronger and more stable. After flowering begins, your job changes completely. Stress is no longer the tool. Stability becomes the priority. Inconsistent watering at this stage causes flower drop. Pest attacks during flowering can destroy the entire effort. This is why controlled stress must be followed by controlled care. Think of stress as flipping the switch and care as keeping the system running smoothly. Let's address a common myth. Many people believe lemon trees fruit only when they are happy. That is partially true, but happiness in plant biology does not mean constant comfort. It means balance. A plant that has experienced stress and then recovery is biologically more motivated to reproduce than one that has never faced challenge. This principle applies not only to lemons but to many fruiting plants. Another mistake people make is repeating shock methods too frequently. Stress is a tool, not a routine. Applying water stress or root pruning repeatedly can exhaust the plant and reduce its lifespan. Ideally, controlled shock should be used once or twice a year at most, depending on the tree's response. Always observe before acting. The plant will tell you what it needs if you learn how to read it. One of the biggest advantages of this method is that it reduces dependency on expensive fertilizers and growth boosters. Many products promise instant flowering, but they often mask the real issue. Without hormonal readiness, no fertilizer can force fruiting sustainably. Controlled stress works with the plant's natural biology, not against it. If you are growing lemon trees in pots, this method is especially powerful because pots naturally restrict roots and moisture. Small adjustments create strong responses. Ground-planted trees take longer to react, but often produce more dramatic results once they do. Both systems work if the principles are respected. Patience is the final ingredient. Gardening culture today promotes instant results, but fruit trees operate on biological time. Controlled stress accelerates the process, but it does not replace maturity. A lemon tree that is too young will not fruit no matter how much you shock it. Maturity cannot be rushed, only supported. If you apply water stress correctly, perform gentle root pruning when appropriate, and deliver potassium at the right moment, you are not forcing the lemon tree to fruit. You are reminding it of its purpose. And when that realization happens inside the plant, the response is powerful, natural, and often surprising. Beyond the basic technique, it's important to understand why controlled stress works at a deeper biological level, because once you understand the why, you can adjust the method for your own climate, soil, and growing conditions instead of blindly copying steps. Inside a lemon tree, growth and fruiting are controlled by plant hormones like auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, and abscisic acid. When water and nutrients are always abundant, growth hormones dominate, pushing leaves and shoots. During controlled stress, especially water stress, the level of abscisic acid increases. This hormone slows vegetative growth and signals the plant that survival may be at risk. When stress is released through recovery watering, the hormonal balance shifts again, and the tree prioritizes reproduction. This hormonal switch is the real engine behind flowering, not any single fertilizer or hack. Another overlooked factor is carbohydrate storage. Lemon trees store energy in their roots, trunk, and older branches. When you constantly push leafy growth with nitrogen, those energy reserves stay low because the plant keeps spending resources on new leaves. During stress, growth slows, and carbohydrates accumulate instead of being consumed. When conditions improve, the tree suddenly has surplus energy, which it invests in flowers and fruit. This is why trees that are slightly restrained often outproduce trees that are aggressively fed. It's not magic, it's energy economics inside the plant. Let's talk about leaf drop, because many gardeners panic when they see leaves falling during stress. Some leaf drop is normal and even beneficial. Leaves are expensive for a plant to maintain. Under stress, the lemon tree may drop older or shaded leaves to reduce water loss and energy demand. This is not failure, it is optimization. As long as new growth points remain green and flexible, the tree is alive and responsive. The mistake is assuming every fallen leaf is a sign of death. In reality, excessive leaf retention during stress would indicate that the stress is too mild to trigger change. Climate plays a huge role in how you apply shock methods. In hot, dry climates, water stress must be shorter and more carefully monitored because dehydration can escalate quickly. In cooler or humid climates, stress periods need to be longer to achieve the same hormonal effect. This is why copying someone else's timeline without adjustment often fails. The plant responds to internal moisture status, not the calendar. Learning to read soil dryness, leaf posture, and daily recovery patterns is more important than counting days. Soil type also changes everything. Sandy soils drain fast and create rapid stress, while clay soils hold moisture longer and delay stress signals. In pots, lightweight mixes stress faster than heavy mixes. If your soil retains water for too long, water stress alone may not be enough. In such cases, combining mild water stress with root restriction or pruning becomes more effective. The methods are tools, and you choose the tool based on the problem, not the other way around. Another advanced concept is branch maturity. Lemon trees flower primarily on mature wood, not on very young, soft shoots. If your tree is constantly pushing soft new growth, it may not have enough mature wood to support flowering. Controlled stress slows down new shoot growth and allows existing branches to harden. Once branches mature, they become suitable sites for flower bud formation. This is why flowering often appears after a pause in growth rather than during a growth explosion. Pruning strategy must align with stress strategy. Heavy pruning right before or during shock can confuse the plant. Pruning stimulates growth, while stress suppresses it. If both signals occur at the same time, the plant wastes energy responding to conflicting instructions. Light pruning to remove dead or crossing branches is fine, but structural pruning should be done well before or well after stress treatment, not during it. Let's also address micronutrient sensitivity, which increases after stress. A stressed and recovered lemon tree becomes more responsive to small nutrient inputs. This is why foliar sprays or soil drenches seem to suddenly work after shock. The plant is primed to respond. However, this also means it's easier to overdo things. A little boron deficiency can cause flower drop, but excess boron can be toxic. Precision matters more than quantity at this stage. Pollination is another hidden variable. Many lemon trees flower beautifully after stress, but still fail to set fruit. In some environments, lack of pollinators or poor airflow limits pollination. Gentle shaking of branches, encouraging bees, or improving air circulation can dramatically increase fruit set. Stress triggers flowers, but pollination completes the mission. Ignoring this step leads to disappointment. Psychologically, gardeners often sabotage success by breaking consistency after seeing results. Flowers appear, excitement rises, and suddenly watering becomes irregular. Fertilizers are added randomly, and the plant experiences secondary stress. Flowering is the most sensitive phase. Stability during flowering determines whether flowers turn into lemons or fall to the ground. Controlled stress ends the moment buds appear. From that point on, your role is to protect, not challenge. There's also a long-term benefit to this method that most people don't notice immediately. Trees trained through controlled stress tend to develop stronger root-to-shoot balance. Instead of tall, weak, leaf-heavy structures, they form compact canopies with better light penetration. Over time, this structure supports more consistent fruiting cycles and reduces pest pressure. Pests prefer soft, nitrogen-rich growth. Stress-managed trees produce tougher, less attractive tissue for insects. Many gardeners ask whether this method works on all citrus. The principles apply to lemons, limes, oranges, and even some mandarins, but the intensity must be adjusted. Lemons are particularly responsive because they naturally fruit multiple times a year under fluctuating conditions. Oranges, which have more defined seasonal cycles, require more precise timing. Understanding species behavior improves results dramatically. Finally, let's talk about ethics and responsibility in gardening content. Controlled stress is powerful, but it must be taught with caution. Blindly telling people to stop watering or cut roots without context can cause harm. That's why understanding plant signals, maturity, and recovery is essential. The goal is not viral tricks. The goal is sustainable productivity. A lemon tree should reward you for years, not just one season. When you step back and look at the whole picture, controlled stress is not a shortcut. It's a dialogue with the plant. You challenge it, it responds, you support it, and together you reach balance. This mindset transforms not only lemon trees, but the way you garden as a whole. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding biologically. If you've tried everything and your lemon tree still refuses to fruit, this method gives you a new lens. Not more inputs, but better timing. Not force, but signal. And when you finally see those first buds swelling on branches that stayed stubbornly green for years, you'll realize that sometimes the most powerful growth comes not from comfort, but from carefully managed stress followed by thoughtful care. This is the trick nurseries rarely explain in detail, not because it doesn't work, but because it requires understanding, timing, and responsibility. Used correctly, it can transform a stubborn, leaf-heavy lemon tree into a productive fruiting plant. Used carelessly, it can damage or kill the tree. Knowledge makes the difference. Watch your plant closely. Respect its signals. Apply stress with intention and care with consistency. When the first flower buds appear, you will understand that sometimes growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from challenge, recovery, and balance.